Laughter and courage and embracing change. I found my joy here in the playful stage.
I'm Richard J. Martinez, and this is the Playful Stage podcast. I am an improv school owner, and every week I sit down with people from all walks of life to talk about the playful stages in their life. Today, my guest is one of my favorite people to creatively collaborate with. I have a whole list of the things that we've done. I first met her as her improv instructor back in 2021. And since then, we've worked together on a Long Beach production of Rent, where she played Maureen, and I was the assistant director.
Only thing to do is jump over the moon.
Last year, I directed her as Frankie Healy in the community theater world premiere of Jagged Little Pill, the musical.
It's a black light in your Chardonnay. It's death row pardon, 2 minutes too late. And isn't it ironic? Don't you think?
And we performed together to sold-out audiences as part of the notorious BIG, Black Improv Group.
Hey, what you got? What time is it? What time is it? What time is it? Hey, what you got?
And she is the author of the incredibly impactful book, Was That Racist? How to Detect, Interrupt, and Unlearn Bias in Everyday Life. Please welcome Dr. Evelyn Carter. Hi, Evelyn.
Hi, Richard. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm good. I got some time to just hang out, kid-free, play my game on my phone. So life is good as far as I'm concerned.
Good, I'm glad.
Yeah.
So this is the inaugural episode of the Playful Stage podcast. And I like to kick off every episode. I intend to kick off every episode with a question. Evelyn, what is your relationship with being playful?
Ooh. What is my relationship with being playful? It's an interesting question because I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And so my relationship currently with being playful is not being so uptight when they don't listen, as toddlers don't. So for example, my older daughter, Georgia, she started maybe 6 months ago doing this thing where I would ask her to get in the tub for bath time or it's time for dinner, whatever. And she would run in the opposite direction, into her bed, cover herself with a blanket and be like, come find me.
And how old is Georgia?
Georgia is 3. She's 3.
Good.
Yeah.
Not 16.
No, not 16. That'd be a different conversation. And so, the first couple times it happened, I was like, this is really annoying. And it's it's dinner time or it's bath time, bedtime. It's I don't want to come find you and play, and I know where you are. You're there giggling under the blanket. But I've learned that it's not very fun to be the mom that's stop playing, just come on, right? And sometimes you do have time for play. And so in those moments, being playful right now is just being oh, I don't know, and going and announcing very loudly, is she behind the couch? No. And then is she under the blanket? And then she erupts into peals of laughter. It's fantastic. And my younger daughter, who is now 1, has started the same thing. I will call her. Her name is Claire. I'll be like, Claire, come here. And she actually will turn and look at me and smirk.
Oh, the smirk.
She's got the smirk.
Okay.
And then she'll run the other way
Nice.
because she wants me to chase her. And so this is, I think, the benefit of Claire being the second child is that whereas with Georgia, I had to learn to kind of lean into the play. With Claire, I'm I guess we're running today.
Yeah.
So that's my relationship.
So many people, I worked in preschool, as you know, for almost 20 years. And the difference I would see with children whose parents clearly played with them versus the ones who didn't, it was a noticeable difference. And honestly, I don't know, I feel like the children who had more play in their lives were just set up for more success.
Yeah.
And
It's also nice. I actually wrote about this in my book. So chapter 8 of my book is all about raising children who just kind of reject racism from the outset because they're not taught it, right? And opening up my book, I really was important to me to talk about how much I love children. And one of the earliest examples of kind of how my daughter and just the kind of mom has taught me so much about play and slowing down was when I would go on walks around our neighborhood with my 1-year-old daughter Georgia, and like it would take us 20 minutes to get 3 houses down because she would want to stop and look at the ants on the ground and be like, oh, let's march like ants. And up in the sky, there were birds and there were planes. And I think the like reminder to just have slow down has
Yes.
been something that has really helped me just as a person, as a human. And so, yeah, but I'm glad to hear that you could see the impact of the parents who were playing with their kids because I'm trying real hard out here. So that's good.
Yeah, you're doing amazing. I see you with your kids, and I see how happy they are, and that you're
You should come to our house at 7:45.
Listen, as a preschool teacher, nap time was the bane of my existence.
Yeah,
So
you
I
get
can
it.
imagine bedtime.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
You get it.
No, thank
You
you.
get it. Yeah.
Speaking of your book,
Yeah.
one of the reasons that we are doing this is because when I learned about the book that you were writing, having had so many different experiences in improv as a leader in improv and as a participant in improv, I've had moments where I've asked myself that question:
Yeah,
was
yeah.
that racist? And you and I are developing are offering
Yeah.
a workshop on June 20th, 2026, called "Rehearsing Resistance: Disrupting Racism Through Improv." And that's kind of what we're here to talk
Yeah.
about today. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've met because of improv.
Yeah.
Right. You were my improv student, but I was not your first improv instructor. Tell our audience about your improv journey.
Yeah, so I actually got into improv because of work. So I was a diversity, equity, inclusion consultant, leading workshops on all manner of topics: unconscious bias, inclusive culture, all that kind of stuff. And I was partially responsible for putting together a team retreat. And we had kind of 2 hours of something to do. And one person who was in the planning committee suggested that we go to a museum, and I didn't want to do that. And I said, like we are all facilitators. We have to think quickly on our feet. We have situations that arise all the time. And there was one time I showed up to do a presentation and there was no PowerPoint like screen whatsoever, right? It's like, how do you do a slide presentation with no slides? And so I said, why don't we do an improv workshop instead? Thankfully that one won. And it was 2 hours of really rich conversations about kind of the connection between improv as a comedic form, as an art form, and how we as facilitators can draw on some of those things, and also just a lot of fun playing games and whatnot. And so I actually then convinced my boss that it would be a good use of my professional development funds to take more improv classes after that. And I stand by that, by the way.
Yes.
So if there are any bosses that are out there, like, yes, professional development is very useful for improv classes at places such as Playful Stage.
Yeah.
Just a little.
Playfulstage.com if you want to check out more information about that.
Just a little brief introduction, a brief interlude. And so doing that was really fantastic. And as over time, I did more and more improv. At this time, I was living in LA, and so I was at Second City Hollywood. I started branching into other forms, musical improv, things like that. And really just came to love this idea of getting on stage with somebody else, getting a suggestion that you kind of loosely take and then going for it. And, in particular, the connection to the work that I do, as a diversity, equity, inclusion practitioner, every time I have a conversation, I feel like it's improv in some way, shape, or form,
Yes.
right? Like there is a suggestion that has been made that we are here for a workshop on unconscious bias, for example, right? But like people have all kinds of things swirling around their minds. They're asking me questions that can seem out of left field. I have a responsibility to kind of curate this experience for them. But they don't know what they're in for. And they're kind of looking to me like, help figure this out. And so improv has been really beneficial for my career as a DEI professional because I can take those skills that I learned of saying yes but also sometimes just saying no, right?
Yes.
To bring forward conversations in a way that helps people learn, helps people engage, and does also sometimes like disarm people with the humor that I bring, which I think is also a really important strategy as well.
Yeah. Well, and the humor that you bring, and the humor that everybody brings in improv, right, is coming from who they are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So many people come into improv and will tell me like, oh, I'm coming here because I want to get away from myself and being myself, and I'm like, okay. And then in my mind, I'm like, I'm actually about to see more of you than
Yes.
you realize, right? But part of that means like we're bringing who we are to the stage, and you know, as Black people, uh, I know from my own experience, I've often been the one or two Black people on a team or in a class, in a school, period, right? Um, and that has, I know that that's had an impact on me. What is that? What's that impact been on you?
Yeah. So I actually had a really think unique experience because my second ever improv class that I took was taught by a Black man, Patrick Rowland, who is in this awesome group called Three Key, and has done lots of amazing things. And one of the things that was not only cool about that class is that he was my instructor, but there was also another Black male student in the class. So, and it was a small class. So literally 50% of the people in the room at any given time were Black. And that was really incredible. But I also have had lots of people who have shared with me stories. In fact, that very first improv workshop that we took when I was doing, the retreat for work, the instructor was a white woman who had quite a large chest, and she spoke about how being the only woman in her, in her shows and in games and something like that, people would use her body as a prop in a way that she did not consent to, right?
Yep.
And so that actually opened up an interesting conversation during the workshop about consent, around how we kind of navigate the dynamic where improv is asking you to kind of go with the first thing that comes to mind, but we know that the first thing that often comes to mind for people are stereotypes or just flat out inappropriate things. And so like kind of figuring out how to do that, I think is one of the nuances that I love about being somebody who is an improviser who is also committed to diversity, equity, inclusion, as I know you are as well. So yeah, I think it's a pretty fascinating way to figure out what really matters to you and how you bring that to life on the stage.
Yeah. I know for me, I came into the improv world and I didn't have that experience, right? All of my improv instructors, I believe all my improv instructors have been white. Um, and I've often been the one or two
Yeah.
student in the space, um, which led to me creating my own space, right? Because it was like, I don't want to be beholden to somebody else's style of comedy or style of inclusion
Yeah.
or exclusion.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a part of a space that didn't celebrate and include everybody that's in the space, right? And so in developing the playful stage, I think as a gay Black Mexican man, like it was really important to me to develop a school that I would be comfortable at,
Yeah.
right? And it's so interesting seeing how many different schools and theater spaces and whatever don't have that.
Yeah.
Right? And or like, yeah, we're gonna be inclusive. Look, we've got a Black actor in our show.
Yep.
Right? Like
We did it.
We did
Yeah.
it. Yeah. But you didn't.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, so the thing that I think is really interesting about what inclusion really feels like is that it's an intentional thing that you have to commit to over and over again. And so you mentioned the title of my book, Was That Racist? One of the things that I love about it is it really is a question that you find yourself like asking every day if you are someone who is self-aware enough to be mindful of the impact that you are having on others, right? And so it's similarly, like if your goal is to be inclusive, you can't just say, we are inclusive, we have done it. You have to constantly be asking yourself and allowing others to ask you, like, was that racist?
Yeah.
Was that homophobic? Should I have done that? Was there a different way that I could have done that? And also, I think something that is an improv kind of thing that somebody somewhere taught, and then you've probably reinforced, is the importance of being willing to just like slow down and let scenes breathe and have that space. And that's something that I think is a requirement when it comes to inclusion as well, right? Like you can't just say, I'm committed to being inclusive and we have our norms and our community agreement. You also have to say, and we're also going to pause and make sure that what we say we are and who we say we are aligns with the actual felt experience of those in our space, and then calibrate accordingly. And those conversations are really important. They're also they can feel scary to a lot of folks.
Yes.
And so yeah, but it's like I feel comfortable talking about things that most people, find terrifying. So
Yeah.
that's kind of who I am.
I've had to find some of that bravery. And honestly, so much of what I have found has been inspired by you, because I see you address these issues kind of head on in different circumstances. And, I've had more conversations in the past 3 years since opening my school around these things, right? Around, was that racist? Was that homophobic? Was that transphobic? Was that fatphobic? Was that misogynistic? And on and on.
Right.
And as sometimes as scary or as uncomfortable as those conversations can feel, I'm so thankful that people want to have the conversation, because the alternative is that we're not going to talk about it, and either someone's just going to leave and be like, well, that place wasn't for me, or that place was racist, or that place was fatphobic, or that place was whatever. And that doesn't move the needle anywhere, right? Like, conversation is, I think, what helps move the needle. And in developing the Playful stage, it was so important to me that even in just our regular classes, that there's room built into the class for conversation about what we're doing in the class. Because so many times I've taken improv classes where it's like, get up there, you're playing in anger, okay, be angry, and da-da-da-da, okay, go sit down, and class is over. And I'm like, what? Now I have all this stuff in me, and I don't know what to do with it, and I'd love to talk about it, but it's 9:15, so goodbye, and that's just emotion, let alone like, hey, this thing got said to me in a scene that I don't know how it's landing it, but it's not landing well, and I want to talk about it, and I don't feel encouraged to, because the space has not provided that opportunity.
It reminds me of, there's a time that I was in a class, not here, it was just elsewhere. And we were doing a song about, because musical improv is my all-time favorite.
Me too.
Of improv. Okay,
Me
great.
too.
Just had to make sure that was stated for the record. And we were doing a song, and the suggestion was a kind of major life event. And the suggestion that we ended up going with was bar mitzvah. And on the one hand, I think, a reasonable person could say like, oh, how inclusive. Like you picked a, Jewish holiday. It's outside of the kind of Christian mainstream. Fantastic.
Sure.
The challenge was that nobody in the cast was Jewish.
Right.
And really, there's only one person who had kind of a tangential relationship with anyone that was Jewish and had ever been to a bar mitzvah. And so what ended up happening was the song it didn't even go stereotypical. It just kind of was flat in a way that was like this, because nobody had anything to pull from. And it ultimately, I think, I'm thankful that it didn't go as poorly as it could have gone. Right.
Yes.
But this idea that, we kind of found ourselves in a situation that I feel like all of us kind of were awkward, like that just felt weird. And so being able to, thankfully in that space, like there was somebody who was in the cast, and, they were like, we got to talk about what just happened, because like that didn't feel good. But, for places that shut down that kind of conversation, or who, ridicule folks for having feelings about things and then wanting to process them aloud, that can be really detrimental, I think, to inclusion. And where we landed in that situation was, we're like, you know what? We're not going to do any like religious big things unless it is something that like we all collectively have experience with. And I think that was the right call in that situation.
Yeah. I remember being in a scene once at a show where it was me and two other white players, and we had the audience suggestion was like it was a holiday, and someone called out Kwanzaa, and the white director took it, and I just thought, okay, and I'm gonna carry this.
Also, like, I don't know enough about Kwanzaa to do it. Like, I just
I don't.
Like, now I feel like I'm a bad black person. I was like, what is happening?
I knew that there were candles involved, because we sang that at the preschool, right? Because we had, the Hanukkah song, the Christmas songs, the Kwanzaa songs, because that's what you do to be inclusive. And I just remember in that scene just thinking, this, I don't want to be in this. Like, I don't want to be doing this, but it's what we're doing. And there it is.
Yeah.
And it's so important to me now that I've developed my own space to give permission to folks to say, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
In the middle of a show, say, I don't want to do this scene. Can we change it?
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's some improv purist who's like, that's not. I'd
Every
rather
improv purist has probably never found themselves in a situation where they are the sole Black person in a scene,
That is
having
true.
to do a scene about Kwanzaa with
Yep.
2 other white people.
Yep.
But, you know, this is what inclusion is all about.
It is. It is. All right, Evelyn, let's talk about the workshop.
Let's.
So our workshop is Rehearsing Resistance, Disrupting Racism Through Improv. I developed the Rehearsing Resistance workshop series at the Playful stage a few months ago, right before Jagged Little Pill. That then I directed that, you were in it. That took up a lot of space in both of our lives.
Chill. Super,
Yeah.
super chill.
Super easy. Yeah. Drama free.
I had a spreadsheet like to manage childcare, by the way. That was, it was intense. And I showed Richie once, my, co-star, scene partner, the total amount of money that my husband and I were going to end up paying to cover childcare for those 15 to 20 hours of rehearsal every week. And yeah, it's commitment.
It is. It is. Yeah.
So I knew we
Yeah.
were a little busy.
We were.
Yeah.
But it was always my intention because, in 2026 or 2025, I directed 2 shows. I opened the year with directing Richard III at the Long Beach Shakespeare Company, and then Jagged Little Pill. And with both of them, 2025, they're just the last 10 years, but 2025 being the results of an election year that didn't go the way that any of us or most of us did not want it to go. I remember telling the casts of both shows that there were a lot of times where I personally was feeling really powerless, and that putting art on stage that told these stories helped me feel empowered, right? Our Richard III, our friend Durant Taylor, they were our Richard III, a non-binary Black person in this role. With Jagged Little Pill, it's a show about everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Literally.
Yeah.
I was describing it once to somebody and I was like, yikes. It's like, what a Friday night. It's a great show.
It's a great show.
They pack a lot in there.
They do. It's racism, sexual assault, drug addiction, perfection, all of that.
Yep.
And it was really important to me or it was really impactful when I realized, I'm making myself feel empowered through art.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do that with this Rehearsing Resistance series. And so the first one was focused on queer themes, and Dorada and I co-led that. And you and I are co-leading this one, Disrupting Racism Through Improv. I always have to pause because I often say disrupting improv through racism.
I mean,
which happens. It happens.
This will not be a workshop on how to be racist.
No,
It'll hopefully
no.
be, opposite. Yeah.
So let's talk about this workshop a little bit.
Yeah. So I think my kind of I have had kind of a parallel journey of the power of art, and kind of to use that as resistance. So when I was playing Frankie Healy, this like 16-year-old, Black girl who's been adopted into this lily white family, and she's just like really angry. I actually will say I struggled for a while with describing Frankie as angry because like angry Black and whatever, but like she is rightfully angry.
Yes.
She's experiencing a lot of stuff, and like she's living in a family system that is completely denying her identity and her existence and her unique experience as a Black girl growing up in a lily white town, right? And so there's a lot to be angry about, but she's also this really layered, beautiful character. But one of the things that came to me as I was playing her is that Frankie Healy would grow up to write a book like Was That Racist? And it was really cool that you, as our show's director, like found a way for me to literally bring my book on stage and to read it with, Frankie's white mama. And so being able to figure out how to take these 2 parts of who I am, this like intellectual social psychologist, researcher, and this performer and singer and all those things and merge them was really, really cool. And I love subverting expectations. And I think when I walk into workshops that I'm getting ready to lead on racism, on inclusion, on belonging, nobody expects, I know because they've told me, nobody expects to have fun. Nobody expects to laugh.
Right.
They expect to leave feeling maybe like they've learned something, but probably leaving feeling unsettled and not in a good way. And so on the flip side, and I don't do that in my workshops. On the flip side, I think few people walk into improv workshops expecting to think, expecting to really like encounter their own biases and stereotypes and really like consider what that means for the world. And also how improv isn't just a thing that we can do for fun and for laughs, but that there are principles that are taught in improv that are useful outside. And so I remember seeing the like Instagram post about rehearsing resistance, the, you know, kind of pride queer themes edition, and thinking like, this is so cool. And I also remember responding to you and being like, I don't know what it is that we're going to do, but like, I want to find a way to bring our worlds together. And so, yeah, we did it.
We did it.
And I'm excited.
Yes.
I'm really excited.
It's my favorite thing to have an idea with someone. And this is what we did with this. It was like, hey, here's an idea. Cool. Is it perfect? No. Let's put it on the calendar.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. And let's figure it out. Yep. Even this today, right? Like us recording. Has this been perfect? No. But it's happening and it's here, and who cares about perfectionism, right? Yeah. To your point about people not expecting to think coming into an improv class, or on the opposite end, like not expecting to have fun in talking about racism or heavier topics, like I think that's what's wrong with this world, right? Is that we're so afraid of the uncomfortable conversation that we're unable to see that it can be fun and can be playful, right? Like, now, does that mean we're gonna come in and play in a bunch of stereotypes? No, but we're gonna shift our way of thinking, right? We're gonna shift our go-tos a little bit and give people just tools to make different choice, to make a new choice.
New choice, incidentally, being one of the things that is a useful improv game that also translates. And that's something we talk about in our workshop.
Yeah. It's something I've incorporated into the school since we talked about this in the workshop, is just, you know, there's a game called New Choice, right? But at any point in my classes, in shows, I feel like if we can just call out New Choice when something comes up that doesn't need to be yes-anded, you know, without it having to be like, now we're going to devolve into here's why, and we can, but in the moment, let's let the scene go if it feels right. And if it doesn't, then we'll stop and we will talk. But like that idea of let's play is so important. I think, you know, Robert Garcia is in the House of Representatives, right? And he was the former mayor of Long Beach.
I was going to say, the mayor? He's not our mayor anymore.
Yeah, he's not our mayor anymore, but he's in Long Beach a lot. And I always, I've seen him here and there, and I always think like, man, I got to go up to you and just be like, hey, it doesn't have to be me, but like, it can be the Playful Stage, but like, you need to like have someone do, like you're talking about corporate improv. We need some government improv.
Robert Garcia, theplayfulstage.com, right? Theplayfulstage.com.
Yes, you know, I mean, like, because it's teaching yes and it's teaching all of those things. We have some fun things in store for this workshop. I know one of the things that we're talking about. We're not going to talk about too much of it because we want people to come to the workshop. But one of the things that we have talked about is some of the games that we play and how we can sort of use the tools that we're talking about, right? Slowing down. I know we talked about the game Alphabet, right? Which is a game where you have to talk in sequential order based off of the alphabet. And that game gives you an opportunity to really listen. Maybe something got said and you can find a way to shift, right? Or to yes it or no it, right? And know it. Are there other games that you thought of that might have some of these tools in mind?
Yeah, I mean, so New Choice is obviously one of them. I'm a big proponent of safe words isn't quite the, but like that kind of idea. I really like working when I've done this with teams, especially when there's low trust in an environment for whatever reason. People often come to me saying like, I felt uncomfortable when this person said that thing, or that thing they said like really rubbed me the wrong way, but I didn't want to say anything, and here we are 2 years later and now I hate them.
Right.
And so one of the things that we develop early on is like, okay, you need to have a way to call out in the moment, like, hey, this thing happened. And so because I am a Black woman and I grew up in the Baptist church, I love the call and response situation. And so, for example, with one of my clients, we came up with ouch and hoops. That was what they came up with. Another one did pause, and then they're like rewind, right? And basically it was just this way to say, for the person who was negatively impacted, like, I didn't like what just happened. And then the other person could say like, my bad, let's try again, right? And so I really like New Choice because it's that practice of being like, ooh, and like sometimes I need a new choice myself, right?
Yes,
Be like,
yes.
I didn't love that. And so giving that shared language to do so, to just be like, I'm gonna try again, in a way that allows someone to identify this thing missed the mark, but I'm not going to call such attention to it that it completely stops everything and it's this big serious moment, because like sometimes we need those moments, but most often it's like I need a new choice. And so that's one of the ones that I really like. I feel like a fun game that I like to play, it's fun for me, a game that I like to play with my clients when I'm doing workshops. So they're like, tell me what your company values are, and I will connect any of those company values to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So yeah, I feel like this is another game. It's like, Richard, tell me like any improv game, and I could probably find a way to be like, it relates to talking about racism, even if I have to shoehorn it in.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Let's give it a go.
Okay, all right.
We're about to play Shakespeare.
Okay.
The two of us are gonna have to we're not gonna play it, but we have to speak in Shakespearean language. How do we use that game?
Okay, tell me more of the, like, is it literally just the game we play? We speak through Shakespeare?
Yeah, so the audience will give us the name of a long lost Shakespearean play.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a scene from that long lost Shakespearean play. Usually we'll start with the two of us. Someone's gonna make an entrance in. We don't speak in iambic pentameter necessarily, but eventually maybe, but that's not where my brain is. And it's like we're seeing an excerpt from a long lost play.
Okay, so I don't know about, well, you literally directed a Shakespearean play, so you probably have a lot more knowledge of Shakespeare than I do. But if I were one hopes you have more knowledge of Shakespeare than I do. And so if I'm playing this game Shakespeare and I hear the suggestion, I might be somebody who's saying like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to do. This is new territory for me. And I think Shakespeare, to bring it into the kind of DEI anti-racism world, that game could go one of two ways. Way number one is that I really just lean into the stereotype of Shakespeare. Whatever I think Shakespeare is, I start like talking and maybe doing the, all the things that come with the Shakespearean times. And that would probably be the bad way to do it, right? From an anti-racism perspective. The other perspective is that I recognize that I'm not quite aware of the rules of engagement for this. I don't have a lot to draw on, but I can be really locked in with my partner. I can do simple things like if they're saying something, I'm just going to repeat it back in a Shakespearean accent.
Nice.
And we will just go back and forth, right? And so the game is actually has nothing to do with me coming up with new Shakespearean language and whatever to say, but it's just really being locked in this moment and being committed to having a conversation with you. And when it comes to conversations about racism, right, I may not know all of the things about your culture or your identity. And if I try to pull on those things based upon my limited knowledge, I might come up with stereotypes that end up harming you in a way that I don't want to. And so instead, what if I just listen to what you were saying and repeat it back to you, maybe save the accent part, right? But like just repeat it back to you and engage. And so, yes, that is the kind of the way that the game of Shakespeare, whether you are a Shakespeare aficionado or not, can also apply to conversations about racism.
I love it. Nicely done. Nicely done.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be here all night.
Yep. Well, I think we're coming to the end of our session here. I could go on for hours and hours just sitting talking with you. before we go, tell us where we can find you online, and tell us a little more about your book.
Okay, so you can find me. The simplest place to start is evelynrcarter.com. That's my website. It is where you can find my newsletter. It's where you can find information about my book. It's where you can find literally everything and anything that I have ever published. And also on the socials, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and whatnot with the youth. But my website is like really the place. And it's funny. So my husband is a video producer among many other talents and skills. And he is hopefully at home as we speak, working on my speaker reel. And one of the clips, he showed me a rough draft before I came here. And one of the clips in my speaker reel is of me talking about why I wrote this book. And in it, I say, the biggest reason I wrote this book is because people who look like me, folks of color, are tired. We are tired of people coming up to us and being like, this is something really happened to me after we are leaving a Pilates class, sweaty and hands shaking because our limbs are, have been used. And somebody that we do not know stopping us and asking us what we think about the Confederate flag. And like stuff like that happens all the time, right? We're in grocery stores and people assume that we are the employees, not a patron like themselves, which like, be an employee at a grocery store, absolutely. But there is a reason that you assume that I, a Black woman, dressed like this, like not in a uniform, is there to serve you, right? There are some stereotypes that are going in there. And so anyway, the book is written because I want white people to read it and be like, oh, I've done that.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
Let me try again.
Yes.
And I want people who look like me to not feel like they have to explain themselves or to answer the random person outside the Pilates studio about what their opinion is on the Confederate flag, right? And so my goal, it was so wild.
I can't
It
get
was so,
over
and
that.
I was like, you literally are standing between me and the door right now asking me this question. Like, I want to go shower.
Right.
I can't possibly smell good.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many things. And like, all you want to know is like, you've seen a black person. You're like, ooh, must ask this person question. Like, geez, phone a friend.
Right.
And so, for me, writing my book is very much like somebody asked me like, well, is there a book just for white people? And like the audience of my book is well-meaning white people. And also anyone who interacts with them, because I want people to pick up my book and either see themselves in the pages, in the stories that I've written, or in one way, right? They've either been the person who's doing the thing or they've been on the receiving end, and be able to realize that there is something that they can do differently. And also, if they are a Black woman like me, for example, they can read it and be like, oh, that's why they're acting that way. It's not me. There's nothing wrong with me. It's them. And here is how I can have that knowledge and not be ruminating and wondering like, why did they say that thing? I'm like, what should I be doing differently? Like, you can just be, it's a them problem. And my book is going to help them figure it out. So that's why my book. And something else that I think is really important about it is that kind of in the same way that we were talking about how improv has applications far outside of, quote unquote comedy. My book is not just for people in corporate spaces or whatnot. Like I said earlier, I've done a chapter on parenting. I talk extensively throughout the book about pop culture references because I love all kinds of, just like we were doing here with improv games. I like taking things that are happening in pop culture and applying it to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so my hope is that truly anyone who picks up my book can read part of it and see how it's applicable to their lives. And I think that that's really important right now because there is no big certainly the government, US and otherwise, is not going to be mandating us to have conversations in a way that is going to drive equity. If anything, they are trying to continue to drive inequity, right?
Yep.
And so it's a personal responsibility play that this book is all about. It's like, if we can't wait on the government to tell us the right thing to do, then we as individuals have to really make sure we are educated on how to create the world that we want to see. And so my book is one tool for that. And improv is another.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, there have been people at the Playful Stage, my school, who have bought the book, and there have been conversations in the class about it. And some have been really, really cool. And then, and some I see like edges being like,
Yeah.
and it's like, great.
Yes. Yes.
Don't shy away from that.
Yes.
Let that feel edgy,
Yes.
right? And think about it, explore, and yeah, it's yeah. I've read it, and I'm it's been so beneficial in how I've been able to have these conversations when they come up in these classes.
I'm so glad. It's like the coolest thing when people are like, I read your book and I learned something. I'm like,
yeah,
I don't even know who you are. That's really cool. Like,
right?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Our workshop
Yes.
is on Saturday, June 20th, 2026, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. here at the Playful Stage studio in Long Beach. We are performing the night before at the Playful Stage studio in Long Beach on Juneteenth as part of our notorious BIG Black Improv Group Juneteenth show.
Yes. I'm so excited about it, by the way. Just like the Juneteenth show, like, come on. So good. So good.
Yeah, I'm too. And our friend Arad is directing that.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being my first guest on the pod. I feel like I have to say
Oh my God. Yes. Please do.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ellen.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, Richard. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Tune in next. I don't know. This is the first episode, so I don't have an outro yet. But you can find us at theplayfulstage.com and on socials at theplayfulstage. Stay playful, everyone, and that's it.
Delightful.
Found myself here in my playful state.